Hello, hello, hello. How is everyone doing today? This wonderful, Sunday morning. I'm recording this on the 16th. We have a awesome guest. His name is David Goodall. We just kind of just jump right into it and just start chatting away. And honestly, I took a lot away from this. And there's a lot of good nuggets for everyone else. And it is definitely worth listening to the end. I'll put it that way. So let's begin.
Welcome to the Josh Bolton Show, where we dive into interesting and inspiring conversations. And now, your host, Josh Bolton.
Thanks. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. How's this Friday going for you?
It's been a crazy week. Actually, I'm going to apologize. I usually like to do more research on the podcasters, but I've had Corona's been going through the house since Monday.
Oh, shit. It's all good.
And I've been trying to do clients and I'm still coughing a little bit. So I remember getting a glimpse of one of your podcasts, and that's probably one of the reasons why I signed up to talk to you today, because something happened and then I don't remember what it was, though. I apologize.
It's all good. Oh, man. So how did you get it? Just curious, because I got it like last year in 2020.
I don't know. I had some crud around Thanksgiving, and then I got better.
Okay.
And then my daughter brought something. I don't know. I don't even know if it was it. We didn't get tested. All I know is that I felt like I got hit in the back of the head with a volleyball for 2 days, and
yep, that's Corona.
And I made a big pot of like bone broth chicken soup with garlic and such, and eaten that for the last couple of days. I'm feeling better. Just still a little snotty.
It's all good. It's all good. At least you showed. I had a guest earlier this week. She canceled and everything. She's like, "Oh, I got Corona. I sound hoarse and everything." I'm like, "All right."
So where are you out of?
I'm in California. How about yourself?
I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina. What part of California?
Near LA area.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. What's in your fish tank back there?
There's a kid glowfish with like the black lights on. It glows like neon green.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'm looking at it hard. I'm like, yeah, that little green one that just passed. If I turn on a black light, he just glows bright.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
So how long have you been coaching? I'm just curious.
Probably 4.5 years.
Oh, wow.
4.5. Yeah. I'm educated in electrical engineering, and I spent 22 years in an IT support consulting coaching role towards the end.
Okay.
And in the last company, I was at a data storage. My clients were like Apple and Walmart and Chevron. So I was always in the Fortune 100.
Right.
And they always billed me out for 10 times more than they paid me. So once I was on a Tiger team, we solved a problem and I got laid off. I'm like, I'm going to go do this on my own. And I grew up in my grandfather's countertop manufacturing plant. So blue collar. I was a kid. He had a heart aneurysm when I was like 9 or 10. So I had 10 years of that entrepreneur in the blood, but then I followed a traditional path. I was never a good student, but got an engineering degree, hopped in the IT industry because I thought that's where the money was. After I was let go, I was like, man, there is no passion, purpose. I want to get back to the small business owner. And I'm blessed with dyslexia. I have an autistic daughter, and my other daughter's neuroatypical with dyslexia as well. And I just got fascinated with neuroscience. And I'm like, how can I take the passion my grandfather gave me, being in the wood shop and loving of learning in the engineering and all the systems we could put service departments in IT. And then I brought the neuroscience and how we're programmed and how to wire and where 90% of our failures are in between our damn ears. And that's kind of like, that's what I bring to my clients. It's like, you can't get out of your own damn way. Like, let's figure out the thoughts in between your ears, switch those and go.
Yeah, that's very true.
And that's where I found my passion and purpose is helping people identify the bull crap stories they got going on in between their ears.
Oh, 100%. So, like I used, it's funny. I had a very similar story with my grandfather, but he died of a diabetic coma when I was like 20 something, but he just was getting to that age where it was really hard for him to even push his lawnmower. So he's like, hey, kid, I'll pay you $20 a month. Can you do this for me? I'll pay for the gas and everything. You just push the mower. And I was just as a young kid, I'm like, oh, cool. If I want $100, I got to pick up like 4 other people and I get $100 a month of cash. So that he started, and he was actually just an old school teacher for, he went through the whole system. He was in Korea and all that. But he had the like military, the entrepreneur get it done. But then he's just like, he went to teaching because he's like, it's easy. I can get money.
Right. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I lost my grandfather in Korea. My dad's dad. I never met him. And then my dad was in Vietnam. So we have a huge military background family. I probably offend a lot of my neighbors because I have an American flag out front, but
it is what it is.
I'm grateful for my freedoms, and I know we've had a lot of family sacrifice for me to have the freedoms I have and the freedoms I'm able to provide for my children. So it's a weird world we live in right now.
It really is. I mean, just having this conversation alone could be considered controversial. It's like, dude, we're just 2 people talking. You can go listen to someone else, kind of thing. Right. No, I love my freedom. I've got friends that doing what I did, like in certain countries, like once your provision's it's chosen, like you don't get to change. Like, no. I had a friend of mine, their daughter was in a foreign country and they had to pick their education because there's only X amount of opportunities per year because otherwise they'll be overpopulated. Like, think of the attorney issue we have in this country. There's like an attorney everywhere now.
Like 90% of the attorneys are unemployed. Like, why are we educating? I'm like, how many hundreds of thousands of dollars does it take to get a law degree? And 90% of them will never get a job. I'm like,
or they'll get one client and that is it for their whole career.
Yeah. So, but no, we are blessed with a lot of freedoms and I'm extremely grateful. And I know the sacrifice my family did to provide that for us. So,
yeah, I had actually a guest on, she's from India. And she was explaining how in India, they still have the caste system. And she's like, especially being a woman, she's like, I had no say. So she's like, I was going to have to be a carpenter and run a business. She's like, so I went to England instead. I'm like, why didn't you come to America?
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, because I was in the IT industry and it was neat. Where we live in a hodgepodge. It's kind of like the East Coast, San Jose. So we've got cultures and colors and it's, my daughters grew up in daycare with, name the country. They were probably in daycare with them. But it's neat to see, like, when we were in development conversations, you'd have Indian men and Indian women and you just see the different cultural, it's just fascinating. I love culture and being educated on. Everybody grows up differently and,
everyone has a unique story.
And I love the uniqueness. I really do. I just, again, I guess we're going down that path again. It's like, how do we get rid of ignorance? We need to start asking questions and talking to one another and learning about one another. It's like ignorance is because we don't know. Like if you don't ask, how are you going to know?
Right.
And I guess that's where I reside in life. And like, I just want to get to know people because I'm middle America white boy. Yeah. Pretty boring. I came from Columbus, Ohio. And, I was exposed to, but I love to learn. I love living where we live because of all the different cultures. It's like we call Morrisville Little India because, in Indian cultures, a lot of the families, they move their families and moms, dads, grandma, like they all live. And you go up there and it's just families everywhere. And it's just kind of, that's not traditional in American families. You don't bring grandma and grandpa in and they live with you. Right. It's just, yeah. It's kind of cool though. I love learning about that stuff.
But also those families like live longer and are usually happier. I think there's the stereotypical, like the Indian father sending their kids to boarding school. I've had a few guests come on to like, that's boarding school is like a death sentence. They're like, just don't go.
Yeah. So how did you get into podcasting?
I've always wanted to do it. Now, like after a year of doing this, I realized because I was scared of the Twitter mobs and the cancel culture. And I'm like, oh, they're going to take my job away. Now that I'm doing this, I'm like, dude, that's free advertising. Let them curse your name. So
then what's your primary stream of revenue? I mean, obviously, is this like, how does podcasting fit into Josh?
So I currently work a night shift job at a local grocery store.
Okay.
I just started this actually back in December 2020. I got COVID. All the managers knew the crew coming in had COVID. but it was inefficient. So they're not going to hold them back, and took out the whole store. I was convulsing on the floor, pretty much having seizures, and they're all yelling at me to keep working.
Nice.
So that's when I realized, like, no, I will not be stuck like on the floor shaking like a dog. I said, if I'm going to be working for someone, they're going to be paying me a handsome sum, kind of thing. And that was the day I just once I got over COVID, like you, then I just set it up and went from there. Haven't looked back.
Cool. So are you still working at nights or?
Yeah. But now it's gotten to the point, like they all know it's just a matter of time. Something's going to hit and I'm just gonna be like, all right, bye.
Yeah. So are you doing coaching or anything like that? Or what else are you
That's
doing?
actually one thing a lot of people have been telling me to get into also. That's where I was kind of interested to pick your brain on it. Because as I've talked to different people, I realized what I do best is, so I'm actually taking this from a guest. He teaches the traditional servient leadership, like the military. So he's like, except no extreme punishment kind of thing. And he's like, you facilitate for the people, and that is the best leadership. And I just, ever since that one person, I'm like, that's right. Because like when I ever lead a team, it's what can I do for you, not what can you do for me, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so it's just teaching others. It's sad to say, a lot of American business owners still don't realize their employees are their greatest asset, and they treat them like shit.
100%. Yeah. There's a client I work with, and on my journey, we were always told, the client's always right. And I've had a large shift in the last couple of years that if you make your employees right, the clients will always be happy.
Right.
It's like, what tools do I need to put in my team's tool bag to be successful? And if I empower them and have their back, they'll go out of their way to empower and satisfy the client.
Oh, 100%. One of my guests, he does a charting. It's weird how he collects the data, but he can show you on charts how your employees are doing and like the morale and all that. But he's even told me during one of the interviews, he's like, I actually have to yell at my employees because they're working off the clock on the thing. And he's like, that's great. I appreciate you love working on your own time, but you're going to get me in trouble now. kind of thing.
You need to go home.
He's like, either bill me and keep working or just go home.
That's funny. That is funny.
So I told him, like, well, see, you wouldn't need my services because you've figured it out through your trial and errors. But that's where he said, oh, I could tell you from my list of clients, they still treat their employees bad. And if they're having a bad day, they don't even recognize it. It's like, oh, you're here. Here's your money. Get to work, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, that's our programming, right? We, like a lot of people, what I learned on my journey is that in the womb to age 7, we're programming our unconscious behavior, right? And 95% of our daily behaviors on repeat from yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Stemmed from the unconscious programming that was programmed by the age of 7. So a lot of my clients, they'll bring to me a problem. I said, would you trust the 7-year-old version of yourself making the decision right now? They're like, no. I'm like, well, why are you? You haven't taken a look at the programming, the strategies and behaviors that your parents have given you that you've decided to use the rest of your life, and you want to point fingers at everybody else. It's in between your ears.
It really is. It really is. The funny thing with that, I'm recently on a journey really long, sad story short. Essentially, I was misdiagnosed schizophrenic. I was put on some heavy drugs at like 8. And so most of my life, I couldn't tell what was real and what was dream.
Ooh.
So it was confirming their theory I was schizophrenic kind of thing. And recently, when I got to the site I'm working at, I had to get a new medicine and like medical and all that. And essentially, very professional Indian doctor, wouldn't say a bad word, said, hey, Josh, do you remember the doorknob coming in? It's very unique. It has a very specific pattern. I'm like, no, I don't even remember touching it. He's like, that's abnormal. You should be able to remember at least that doorknob. He's like, how long have you been on this shit? Immediately, it just went, oops, I need to go cold turkey today. So
that's crazy. So you were misdiagnosed?
Pretty much. It was, well, you would know the system. The doctor's only given like 15 minutes to get to know a problem. So I was ADHD kid, which ADHD itself is not bad. No. But I would be happy playing in the corner, suddenly I'm in the corner crying because I broke something, and then I'm giddy doing something else somewhere else. And so he's like, he's schizophrenic. Here's some meds.
Oof.
So yeah, I've been clean like 2.5 years. And that's where the 7-year-old, I wouldn't trust anything he would say because he was drugged out. He's seen like Satan come out of the wall and be like, "Oh my God, why is Satan here?
Why is he melting?"
So,
have you experimented with any like psychedelics or anything like that?
yes, I have actually. That's
Awesome.
what helped me rebuild connections.
Perfect.
And like a super small dosing, like at worst, like 5 milligrams.
Yeah, no, I had a buddy, friend, and client. We were trying to do some NLP work, and he ended up doing some therapy with microdosing to try and get through some of his childhood traumas with tremendous successes.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I have not had the ability to explore psychedelics, but I've had clients with DMT and psilocybin and shrooms and ayahuasca. There's all these types of journeys.
Oh yeah.
I've been following Dr. Joe Dispenza, and the most recent, what was the CIA documentation release? And I'm going to go woohooey here, but
I like it.
The gateway process. Have you heard of that?
I've heard the name. What is it?
It was a military program back in the 80s that they, what was that movie? Staring at Goats.
Oh yeah.
Basically they had a special unit in the Army that learned how to do the gateway process to do quantum leaping. They could actually leap from their body through quantum meditation and explore remote areas of our enemies during war times. It's called the gateway process. That's cool, though. Yeah, it's quantum leaping. It's learning how to leave the body. Joe Dispenza talks about it in his meditations, and I've been studying him for a while. But getting into a meditative state. So if you think of our brain, it goes delta, theta. So beta, alpha, theta, delta. So delta is deep sleep. Theta are REM sleep, right? So through theta, we can connect with quantum. So quantum, atoms don't exist. When atoms don't exist, time doesn't exist.
Interesting.
So quantum hopping allows you to get into a meditative state to hop the body. I know a lot of people would use ayahuasca and psilocybin and stuff like that too. But we produce our own DMT, and you've probably heard Joe Rogan talk about DMT.
Oh, he loves that stuff. It's hysterical.
Yeah.
Some of the stories he talks about is hysterical too.
We could go conspiracy theory, right? Because apparently our pineal gland creates its own DMT, and Joe Dispenza's got a meditative process to spark your own pineal gland to trigger your own DMT. But you know what calcifies your pineal gland?
DMT?
Fluoride.
What's that? Is that the toothpaste stuff?
Stuff that's in our toothpaste and our drinking water. Who was the first person to introduce fluoride into the drinking water? The Nazis in World War II.
Wow. So, okay, I can't stop brushing my teeth then.
So, yeah, fluoride calcifies your pineal gland. Pineal gland releases your own DMT, which is basically, they call it your God gene, your connection to the quantum space of creation.
Interesting.
And that was the gateway process. They learned how to connect with, but they want to subdue it because they don't want you guys to know how you can control your own life, right?
Right.
God forbid. You take control of your own actions and are responsible for your own creation.
Right. No, it's really funny because a lot of people I talk to, they're like, wow, you had everything going against you. Now you've like kicked down the wall and the world's your oyster. I'm like, well, it was a hellish, like 26 years to get to that point.
I love Cinderella stories though. The comeback's always awesome. The underdog.
Seriously. The interesting though, I was thing about talking about the theta. I want to pick your brain on that too.
Sure.
One of the things I was talking to one of my coworkers at a different site, and she's really into like Wiccan and tarot cards and all that. But I was telling her, I said, yeah, ever since I was a young kid, meds and no meds, I still see it. It's like I could kind of see like heat waves on a really hot California day. You see it in the air. I said I could see like a silhouette of a human. Nothing clear, but I could see it, and nothing clear again. It'd just be more like a wind of a whisper. I could hear like I said the weird thing is like I could kind of like talk to them. I said I just thought it was the drugs, but recently I'm like I've been cleaning, and it's like nope, I can still do it. I'm just curious, would you be in good theta to get to that point?
Yeah, I think we're all born with different gifts. I had a buddy and we sit down and I love studying Nikola Tesla and Albert Einstein and even Elon Musk. And I love the first principle thinking. And, even Nikola Tesla was,
he was leaps and bounds ahead of his time.
Well, I was listening to Joe Dispenza this morning talking about Einstein came out of a meditative state and with E equals MC squared. And he just wrote it on the board and was like, yeah, this is it. And they're like, well, how do you know? He goes, I don't know the math. You guys do the math. This is what I was told. Mm-hmm. So they're visions, right? So I think that theta state is connection with quantum or connecting with a God gene, whatever it is. I think we can create something from nothing if we shut up and we listen long enough. But we're so in tune with ego to protect the body that we can't be quiet enough to find that connection. Those other realms, right? There's like the fourth and fifth and sixth dimension. A lot of us, that fourth dimension is what? Time, right? So
yeah, I think it's time, but like we can only perceive it as in the third dimension, I believe.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't have the answers. And I know scientists are constantly trying to prove it, but I know there's a lot of stuff out there that we can't see that probably does exist. I don't know what that is. Like when I try and walk people through I do an energy leadership index, and it's just the levels of energy for which we have internal conversations and how we're influenced based on our lenses to which we experience life. Right. And that level 7 is connecting with source, God, creator, whatever it is, being able to create something from nothing. And a lot of times people have difficulty embracing that philosophy. And I'm like, hey, have you ever logged on to Wi-Fi recently?
Oh yeah, all the time. I'm on it right now.
Can you see it? Can you tell me how it works?
Can you feel it?
Electricity. And I know you can see the results, like the lights on, but can you see?
You can see it, but you don't want to feel it.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of things that we don't know, and we will be on this planet and not know. We can all go woo-hooey, but again, you talked about coaching. I think the further woo-hooey we go, the disconnect from who we are and what we're trying to accomplish. A lot of us will try to find ways to. You talked about tarot cards and all this other stuff. That stuff's great. Like,
yeah, it's interesting.
It's interesting. But at the end of the day, what and I think Dr. Joe talks about this too. He's like, 3 lives ago, I was murdered on a ship of whatever. Great. But what do you want right now? Like, you're in this body on this planet, what is it? January 14th, 2022. What established success for you today? And what tools do you need to do that?
100%.
A lot of people want to, and I call it time traveling. Oh, 3 lives ago. Why do we need to go back 3 lives? Like what's not satisfying right now that we have to go back in time to go forward in time to go, like, what do you want? And that's, right. I'll tell you what, 90% of my clients can't tell me what they want.
Well, okay. Most of us are not taught to figure that out though.
Right. We're not given those tools.
Yeah. I'm gonna say you can see it. There's just the whole pile of books I've just been going through. And now I prefer my books audio, but that's just one thing as I'm consuming all this knowledge. I'm like, oh, this is literally not taught, or we don't know about it.
No. And what I think I heard you saying is when you see these, I think I'm hearing you say you see auras. You have the ability to see people's energy resonance, and I'll dive in with you right now. So I was through a lot of my training. I did some intuitive coaching, and I'm an engineer. So a lot of it was woo-hooey and, tarot card. Like, great. That's just cool. But how does that impact the now? And I was told through that whole journey, we're beings of light, beings of light, beings of light. And I'm like, what does that mean?
Right.
And then I was listening to it was a podcast, or it was a TED Talk or something about frequency waves. Like, our atoms resonate at a frequency wave for its density, right? It's the vibration the molecules resonate at, which provides its density. Skin is soft, metal's hard. What has to be present for something to vibrate at a frequency wave? Albert Einstein equals MC squared, the derivative of light. So atoms must ride a light wave to vibrate at a frequency level to maintain its density, to maintain its existence. So for the longest time, I couldn't make the connection of beings of light. It's like, oh, my atoms and molecules vibrate at a frequency wave on a beam of light for me to exist. I'm a being of light.
What I say is energy, because light is a type of energy too.
Yeah. So you see the vibration, like you're seeing the aura. You've got that.
Mm-hmm.
That ability to connect. My daughter, my oldest daughter, who's autistic, I think she has a lot of those gifts as well. She sees things. She'll be like, "Daddy, do you see?" I'm like, "I don't, but if you do, tell me about it. Explain it to me." It's like, but then I also have to help her. It's like, but we are here in this world, in this existence.
You might be seeing another timeline. That's great, but we're here.
Yeah. So I love those explorations. Like I've got tons of friends, ayahuasca, done their journeys, the DMTs, and I love hearing about it. What did you learn? What did you see? People talk about aliens or whatever. Great. whatever story you need, whatever your experiences was, what did you learn from it? How does it contribute to what you're trying to accomplish right now?
Oh, 100%. The main thing that put me on the path where I'm at was actually I was in Idaho for like a month and a half. Interesting story. I kind of was just left for the last half of the month, but I ran out of my heavy prescription pills, and that's where I realized, oh, I don't actually need this. I mean, it was a perfect situation. It was like luck of the draw. I was in a farm in the middle of nowhere in Idaho, so even if I went crazy, who am I going to hurt, kind of thing. And there was no cows, so it was just perfect. I detoxed there, and it was tragic in the moment, but essentially I got home, went to my instructor. I re-upped the dosage and all that. And I got it was one of the pills was anti-seizure side effect, antidepressant.
Okay.
So essentially my brain was going really slow. They were like, oh, he's really slow. We'll give him, I think it's like, it was Wellbutrin, Topamax, and Vyvanse. So one of them was like a mood amplifier. So I'm slow, really emotional. And then they're like, we'll give him Vyvanse, which is legal speed. Oh. So I was emotional. My instructor, awesome, passionate man, got me really hyped up, and I crashed.
Yeah.
It was, no, literally crashed my car into a lady. It was like that last second, my brain. Have you seen Sherlock Holmes with Robert Downey Jr.?
Yeah.
The first one where he sits there, he plays the whole thing out before he even does it. So that was me. I said, okay, if I go straight, I'm going to kill this woman. If I go hard right, yes, I'm still going to hit the car, but I won't hurt anyone. And then it was like the 1-2, I just grabbed my wheel and turned it as hard as I could and hit the back of the car. By God or whatever, that was the one day the mother left her child with her mother. I would have killed the child. Oh. So it was just one of those. I'm like, I'm glad I listened to my intuition and did that.
Yeah, it's funny when I heard you say in the very beginning when you were a kid as an ADD and hyped in one and then over crying in the corner. What I heard was an extremely intuitive and empathetic child. Mm-hmm. Didn't understand where your energy started and stopped. And that crying could have been other people's energy, not knowing that, is this mine? Is this theirs? Right. I deal with a lot of empathetic, intuitive people that that's one thing I've worked with my daughter, Kennedy, is being able to read energy in a room. Where does yours start and stop? Where do theirs start and stop? You've walked into a room before, you're like, ooh, feels yucky in here.
Oh, yeah.
Come to find out there's an asshole in the corner, and it's like, ooh, that's his, not mine. Ooh, take that back. So we're not taught that either. It's like, I think I was a very intuitive, empathetic. I was a very emotional kid, and I wore my emotions on my sleeve. And I don't think I ever learned how to establish where my feelings started and stopped and how to build boundaries. But you can't see it. So, that's not man talk,
Right. So just suck it up and keep going.
Yeah. Suck it up, buttercup. I love it.
But yeah, that's actually a good point. Cause like there were a few times near the end, I still hang out with my buddy, but he has bad energy in general. And I realized looking at it was, he's always had it, but I was just oblivious to it. Yeah. But that was one where we were going to a party or something. Immediately I'm at the door and we're going in. I said, something's wrong. Let's not go. And he's like, all right, Josh, you took us all the way out here. Come to find out there was a lunatic who was drugged and kept running around with a knife.
Wow.
And that's where my buddy, because he got the text from the person's like, why aren't you here? And then immediately, oh shit, so-and-so's doing this. And he's like, oh yeah, my buddy just like randomly bad vibe. Let's go.
Yeah, trust your intuition. I mean, we all have it. Yeah, that's an awesome story.
It is. And it was just one of those, we were in Chinatown and the same thing. Well, I was with one of my exes, so she was giving me weed, like indirectly was trying to help me, but I was taking the heaviest stuff, so it didn't help anyways. And I guess we were all gone, like mentally just checked out because of the edible brownie. The only thing I guess I added was I visually thought there was a crocodile in the lobby of a Chinese restaurant.
And there was probably a puffer fish or something, but it turned into an alligator.
Turned an alligator for me. But I sort of told him that's the last thing I remember. So we went back to Chinatown to look around. He's like, dude, that's the place. There's no alligator. I'm like, wow. Okay, well, that was a new one. But, I guess we were all lost and it was dark. And I just like intuitively was like, oh, we got to go this way. And because I'm high and happy, I'm trying to steal the little turtles from the Chinese guys. I'm like, bring the turtles. Trying to throw them down the sewer.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, I got us home, and that's where my buddy's like, whatever state you are, you're intuitive. We're just gonna listen to you.
Yeah, man, that's a gift right there. That's a gift, and I've been doing my best teaching my daughters, like kind of like the law of manifestation and how to put that stuff to work.
Powerful.
And dude, I'm just impressed with both my daughters. Just the stuff that they're. Oh my God. I'm like, sometimes I'm still doubting it. It's kind of funny. I listen to Dr. Joe every now and then. He'll talk about how he's taught his kids, and then he'll have a conversation with his daughter, and he'll be like, yeah, right. And he goes, wait a minute. I taught her how to do this stuff. She's probably going to do it. And, but I do the same thing with my daughters. Like I've learned about it, when they were babies, trying to get out of my own crap. And now they're creating opportunities that I'm like, I can't make this stuff up.
Right. The one thing I was joking with a guest, because she was super hardcore in the law of manifestation. Wow, too fast, Josh. And essentially she's like, oh, you can manifest anything. I'm like, well, to an extent. I said, I can't manifest a flying pig. Let's be realistic about that.
Right.
But I'm like, it's one of those though. Yeah. Like if I want an opportunity and if I focus on it, like if you're in a car lot and you don't find anything, you'll say, by the second time I come around, there will be a slot right here. And you whatever slot. And every time I do it, there's always that one.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, opportunities will always present itself. And it goes back to the very beginning of the conversation, is knowing what you want. Mm-hmm. I just wrote a book. It's up on my website on how to set up goals. But one of the exercises is all the shit you hate. Start listing it out. Because when I ask people what they want, they're like, well, I've never been able to really ask for what I want, or I can have it here in this part of my life, but not here. But if you could list the top 5 things you hate that's showing up in your life right now, map it across to what, if you had what you want, if this was gone, what would you have?
Right.
So that's kind of one of the steps I use for my clients. It's like, okay, write down the top 5 things you hate in your life right now, map it across to, if this was gone, what would you have instead? That's kind of where you start. Now, what's the next tool you need to get one of those 5 things?
That's good. I like how you laid it out, because how I did it for myself, it was essentially, okay, what do I hate? So what do I have to do to make it easier? So then I don't have to deal with it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
so
yeah,
okay.
I would say it was just like your 5 list. Like, what are the 5 things you need to do to help it out?
Yeah. It's like, I'm tired of paying my rent late. Okay. Well, how much is your rent? $1,500. Great. Why is it always late? Well, because I need $1,500. Well, how are you paying it now? A job that I hate. Okay. So you had the job. How much do you make at that job? If you were to get a new job, could you make that much or more? What would you be doing in that job? How often could you do that job? If you did that job and you enjoyed it and you worked more hours, would you have problems paying your rent? No, go get that job.
Right.
But we're so stuck in I hate my job. I'm always paying my rent late. Like, you're stuck in that story. It's like, okay, first principle thinking. How's this a problem? Like,
right.
Step it down. And yeah.
And that's one of those, like one of my coworkers, he had trouble with debt. And so it was just one of those, I'm like, I'm good with my numbers. My mom was a banker. So she works for a bank. And it was just one of those, she was good with numbers, always taught me finances and stuff. So I told him, I'm like, okay, what do you spend? He's like, oh, I buy everyone Little Caesars pizza and wings, and it's about $75 a day. And I'm like, wow, that is like pretty much your whole day's worth of pay for people who just only like you for your food. I said, how about you stop that? And then how about you just make your own food? I'm like, obviously, if you're running out, we can go get you some like McDonald's or whatever. But how about you make your own food, save whatever, and just put aside? Talk to me in 3 months. He comes back. So he was saving for a car. He's like, he had $3,000 saved up in 3 months. He had this and this. And he's like, and I paid off all my debt. And I didn't even tell you to pay off your debt. I'm like, how much did you have by chance? He's like, $10,000. I'm like, how much are you making that you could afford all that kind of thing?
Right.
So it was just one of those. He bought his new car, and he jokes with me like rough dad jokes, but when no one's around and no one's looking, he's like, seriously, thank you though. Like, if it wasn't for you, I would not have gotten that like good car. I'm like, hey, I'm here to help.
Yeah. Isn't that awesome? Yeah. I had a client, same thing. She was just, her story was, I'm bad with numbers. I'm like, no, you're not. You don't understand numbers. You haven't developed a good, healthy relationship with numbers. First of all, let's change our language pattern of I'm bad with numbers. Let's start with, I currently don't have a good relationship with numbers. And then let's build a healthy relationship. But she was in the same boat. We created a process, a strategy. We did some release stuff. We did some NLP work. We structured a game plan. And I was like, you will be out of debt before January 1st. And she's like, I don't know. We created a mantra. I had her doing her visualization. We cleared out all the baggage. We established, we mapped out all the numbers. Basically, it was a painful process. I had an hour interview. Who do you owe? How much? And like, it was almost, there's so much guilt and shame because she's got a master's degree. And she's like, well, I should know. I'm like, what? Stop.
You block this out because it's painful for you.
It's painful. So, we went through that hour process of just putting it down on paper. And I'll tell you what, I'd bet you 80% of my clients, just walking them through, put your stuff on paper right now. But there's so much guilt and shame around, well, I should know. But then I'm sitting there going, did school teach you how to manage a checkbook?
No, they don't anymore. That's the crazy part.
They don't.
I was the last to learn it. And I was like 2000 when I learned it.
Yeah, I've got clients and they'll see my proposal and then sometimes there's sticker shock. And I'm like, look, I'm not going to bring on the client telling me you can show me your P&L. Because first of all, I don't want you to make a decision that I'm going to be the end all be all, save you from this problem. I want you to show me that you have an understanding of your money and one that you can afford me and know that our relationship together is going to put more money in your bank.
Right.
I don't want you to Hail Mary, Jesus, I'm going to hire Dave and he's going to fix all my problems. No, you're going to fix your problems. I'm just going to help you navigate it.
I'm just going to be the guy.
Yeah. But you'd be surprised how many people don't have a valid P&L, don't understand fixed and variable expenses, they don't. Profit margins. I mean,
this is the one thing I actually had. This one guy from UBS, he's like essentially the CEO of the American area for the branch. And that was one thing I told him, like, even in school, I said, I was lucky with my mother being the financial lady that she is. She taught me the basics of cash flow, the profits and all that. But I'm like, they don't teach you a basic P&L sheet or like a cash flow sheet at work. At school. Like they don't, if they just taught us the basics of a cash flow sheet, just a cash flow, so many of us could actually like do things in life. But we're not taught that.
Well, I mean, I've gone a step further with my clients now. I even did it for myself. It's load balancing.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I want to make X amount of money, say for example, I want to make $500,000 next year. I got to take my products. How many of my products do I have to sell to make 500,000? Now, how much time does it take for me to fulfill those products? And I'm like, oh shit, for me to make 500,000, I got to work 60 hours a week, every week for 52 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to work. So it's load balancing your product, service, or solution is it sustainable? Is it workload balance? So not just a cash flow, but for your products and services, can you deliver? We're going deeper down the rat hole, but a lot of people are like, oh, $1 million business. Well, what does that take? Really?
Oh, you're going to need a team at that point, or you're going to have to like charge a shit ton of money.
Right. So yeah, it just depends. It's I forget where I was going on that, but yeah, the load balance, the actuarial table in regards to what's the products, like even I've got some clients, they're like, yeah, well, we made $300,000 last year. What was your profit margin? What do you mean? We built out 300,000. I'm like, how much did you keep? How much did you pay your employees? How much did you pay your products, your services, your marketing? Like, what's your operating expenses? But now we're talking P&L again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, that's another one where it's like, it's amazing that there's a lot of business owners that just don't know that. And it's like, how did you go into business again?
Yeah. Well, I'm working with a business development manager right now. He's running a sales team and he's got a bunch of young guns all under the age of 30. And,
okay.
Software service sales, and half the kids maybe work 15, 20 hours a week. Right.
Right.
And his first question to them is like, what's your comp plan? They're like, I don't know. Well, what's your quota? Well, if I get this, then I get to keep my job. But it was like, he just basically took 2 hours and broke down the comp plan. And if they each put an additional hour in a day, these kids would be making $300,000-$400,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't take the time to break down their comp plan to see how much time would be involved to invest in putting in a little bit of effort. And they're chasing like $2,000 a week, and they could be making 10, 20 grand a week.
Oh yeah.
With an extra hour worth of work. That's intentional.
Well, I'm just curious, what would that be? Just like cold calling or email?
Yeah, a lot of them is just, filling out their funnel, cold calling, being structured. A lot of times it's learning the product. What's the problem you solve? Like most people that are in sales, they don't have a true belief that their product, service, or solution is going to solve a problem. So
that's hard to sell.
Then you're selling ice to an Eskimo, right? It feels dirty. The success rate is going to be pretty crappy. Sales is fascinating to me. I love that whole journey through sales.
Oh yeah. And that was for me, my martial arts instructor. I graduated high school in 2011. So I started working for him in 2012. And so I was 18, lived with my parents. Like I didn't have to worry too much about bills. So I just would hop on the bus, go out to Claremont in California, be with him for like 5-6 hours. And that was the one thing I realized now, and I've told him, I'm like, you taught me to literally know how to sell rice to an Asian man kind of thing.
Right.
And it was just one of those, I told him like, these are one of the skills I don't even know how to thank you for it kind of thing. He's like, well, pay me my monthly bill and we're good to go.
Yeah.
But that was like, for me, this is why I picked the empathy and intuition, because how I picked my clients, my instructor was the entrepreneur, get going boy, like the old school coach, like slap you on the ass, get in there, kick their ass kind of thing. And, but I would focus on someone like your kids, where I could actually sit there, see where they're at and teach them. And it was one of those, I always remember one of the kids, like my instructor was like, okay, well, you want an hour for X amount of time. It would be like $600. And they're like, okay, well, after like a week of that, they're like, no, we want double that. So he's like, okay, well, that's like $1,000. And they're like, it's worth it for Josh. He's helping so-and-so so much that, like, their kid, I forgot the name, and recently, that was like 10-ish years ago, my instructor told me, oh yeah, so-and-so, let's call it Jimmy. Parents called. He's functioning normal. He can actually like talk to girls and not be weird now. He can hold a job all because of your lessons like 12, 13 years ago.
Not crazy.
Right? And which is one of those, I jokingly told him, I'm like, I'm now at that point, like I'm getting to the point I can actually hold a job and talk to people too. But I'm great that I could help him back then when I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing to reflect on how many people have random thoughts about you on a daily basis.
It is.
I had like my little god brother, like I babysat him when I was a little kid, and now he's a dad, husband and kids, and my daughter's in softball, his son's in baseball. But he's like, do you remember that time when you told me don't cry wolf story when you were babysitting me? I was like, I kind of do. He's like, wow. And this was like 5 years ago. He's like, the impact that story had on me. Because he was kind of crying wolf in the house, like I was babysitting him. He's supposed to be doing something. He was making some bull crap up, but it was just like, it's that moment in time. Like I was maybe 14 years old. And here I am 50 this year. He's in his 40s and he's telling me the story that I told him when he was probably 7 or 8. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
How many of those have happened?
Yeah. We'll never hear it though. Like I was lucky because they had my instructor's number to say, like, pass it along to him. But yeah, how many people are we helping and we just don't even know it?
But that comes back to the energy. We're all connected. You feel it. There's moments where you're kind of down. You're like, oh, you kind of go inward. You're like, oh, wait, no, I do have value. I do have purpose. I have made an impact. And it's just because, it's weird. We're all just vibrating molecules. We're all beings in a flesh suit.
Pretty much.
With
the martial arts with my instructor, we did a big Catalina trip. A lot of the instructors got drunk, but that was just for them. But a actual Buddhist monk from China came out. Very good English, so it was not like we're trying to understand the different dialects. But they paid whatever amount to the monastery to have him for a session for like 5 hours. But we were doing our seminar and it was in between. It was like a 30-minute break. So I'm like 7-8 feet off. I'm not there. And there's a beach. So like the waves, like drowning out a lot of what he's saying. But the biggest one I caught, he said, for us Buddhists, we don't believe in a God. We believe essentially in a dragon. There's a dragon in all of us. Now, will you feed your dragon good or do you feed your dragon bad? And I'm like, and I sat there, I'm like, immediately put it, it's like the wolf analogy for Native American Indians. I'm like, so then then they try to yell at me. But essentially he said, see, now you're giving bad energy to your dragon. So you're hurting his dragon. And then they're both like, fine, Josh, you can't have the tea, but you can sit next to us.
Yeah.
But that's always stuck with me because I'm like, I've always had that intuition. I'm like, what you put out, like manifestation, it will come back. So try to put as much good out as you can.
Yeah. Well, it's also understanding energetic magnetism, right? Whatever you believe to be true, you're right.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's what I try to tell people. I was like, listen to your language patterns. I was on a podcast last week, and one of my comments was, I love the saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me.
Oh.
I said, but language patterns have emotional meaning to you. The hurt can be derived by you, the listener, in the meaning you're making of the words that were spoken. So, no, at the end of the day, we're all meaning-making machines. Who makes the meaning? We do. There is no meaning. It's all made up. It's not real. But whatever word is spoken to you, if there's an emotional trigger, you make the meaning of it. You choose that's feeding your dragon, as you would just say, right?
Right. Yeah. Like for me, with the different reading and the catching myself, the one thing I realized when I was younger, again, I didn't know the energy. There was actually a bad guy I was always hanging out with. It wasn't my high school buddy, but it was like, because I felt the energy, I started amplifying and I started doing what he did. So people were like, oh, you're a monster. You're scary. I also had really, really crooked teeth. I'm straightening them out as we're the aligners.
Nice.
Yeah, that's been one of them. But they would say, oh, you're a monster. You have crooked teeth. You're going to bite everyone's throat out. Like, you're mean. And for the longest time, it was like, I heard it, but it was just kind of like I brushed it off. But it got to the point, it was too deep of a stain. And I started believing it. And then it was like, for a long point in my life, I thought it was the monster. No one would like me. No one would love me. And now looking back, you fulfilled it. You are exactly what you said.
We are powerful manifestors. Like, whatever we believe to be true, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
I had my awakening moment was my daughter wasn't diagnosed autistic until she was 9.
Okay.
So I had 9 years to gather more evidence that I was a piece of shit parent, piece of shit person. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I was a horrible student. I had a reading level of a second grader my junior year in high school. So they were like kicking me out of school. I was not a good student, but I loved to learn. I loved to figure out how stuff works. Like I was like that curious car stereo installations. I was the car stereo guy back in high school. I knew how to build cabinets. I could tune them. I knew math. I knew I could build shit, but have me do a thesis breakdown of a Shakespeare, and that ain't happening. Like I didn't get it, which is funny because now I got a master's in neuro-linguistic. So language patterns and programming, right?
But it's what interests you. That's the key with ADHD though.
Yeah. So I forget where I was going with this.
Sorry. Neuro-linguistic masters that you couldn't write things.
Yeah, I was a horrible student, and I forget. I lost it. Must not have been that important.
Well, then I'll add in one for you. So one of my teachers, because I was put in, it wasn't the mainstream where the severely Down syndrome people would go. Yeah, like secluded, but I wasn't fully mainstream in that, like where everyone else was, the normal people, which I realize are just sheep now. But so I was that awkward middle, and I was always that awkward middle. And one of my teachers, my dad works still at the school district that I went to school at. They saw my sticker on his bottle, and they're like, "Oh, how is he doing?" He's like, "Oh, he actually has held a job now for like 3 years." Because even back then I would job bounce like crazy. And he's like, yeah, he started a podcast because even though he's introverted, he loves talking to people. And she's like, we all talk about him still. And I'm like, what did I do back then to like, they had to talk about me? Was I that bad of a person? But I guess it was like a lot of people, just me being me, shifted. And I've even told them. And that's coming back to the whole energy thing. I'm like, I'm just trying to have a fun time and not hurt people.
Right. It's simple. Yeah, I know what I was going to say now. Okay. So my daughter wasn't diagnosed autistic until she was 9. So it was right around she was 4. My second was born. I hated my job. I was fat. I was miserable. And I grew up in a house with a lot of level 1 energy, right? A lot of that victimhood. We can't because of our circumstances. And, for example, I had a client call before us, and he grew up in a trailer. So his belief was, I will never have money. And then about a year ago, he got pissed off and frustrated. He got laid off and then just dug into the crypto books. And now he's got a huge crypto portfolio. And he's like that bullshit. He's like that bullshit story I told myself that living in a trailer, I would never be wealthy. He goes, fuck them. I just put my head to the books. And I'm like, I love it, man. I absolutely love it. But the point I was trying to get across is I was bitching and complaining. And the guy turned around and he goes, dude, your life sucks because of your best thinking. I was like, what? He goes, you're lost. He's like, let me make it easy for you. Your life sucks because of you. And I was like put off. Mm-hmm. He's like, it's your programming, bro. It's how the lens through which you see the world. It's your view of the world. If you say it sucks, you are right. Go think on that. And that kind of kicked me on my ass in my journey. It's like, ooh, I got to quit bitching and start owning. I can make it my mom and dad's fault all day long, or I can put my big boy pants on and go figure out how this stuff works.
Oh, 100%.
And now that was a rough day. And when I'll never forget that day. Your life sucks because of your best thinking. What am I, an idiot? Yes, all of the above.
I'm just curious, how long do I got you for?
As long as you want, man. I got a call at 3:30 East Coast time. But did you have a format, or like, this has been an awesome conversation. I love organic talks because
I like this too. There's some like they ask for questions and I do it, but I like these more personally. I learn the most, at least.
Yeah. So what are you trying to achieve? Like, so you got a podcast, you're always like antisocial, a little weird, not in mainstream education class. Like you seem like a pretty normal well-educated, well-tempered human being. Like, yeah, what's your purpose? What's your goal today? Not today, but in general.
In general. So the biggest one, and I actually have been talking to my instructor about this. I've always had a good intuition of patterns. So that's why I've been trying to learn the stock market to make money off it too. And help me. But one of them, that's where he told me, he's like the analogy with the kid earlier, that they went from like 600 to 1,000 plus, is he's like, you're good. He's like, he joked and said, you're a kid at heart. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to grow up, but my inner kid's starting to realize I need to do some adult things so I can do the fun stuff later on.
Yeah.
But I said, yeah, I don't want to grow up. If I could, I'd go like traveling the world kind of thing. But he said, you should be helping kids. And I said, okay, there's one problem with the internet. The moment you say you're trying to help a kid directly, they consider you a pedophile or like predator. I said, how about I go for the parents to indirectly help the kids? And he's like, okay, that works. I said, but he said, in general, he's like, your business though. He asked me a lot of insights he has clients now asking him, he's like, give me a week. I'll ask the kid on Wednesday. But a lot of them have been asking insights. And I'm like, I told him, I don't even have a business. I don't feel like I have authority to tell them what to do with their business. And he's like, dude, your insights though, it doesn't matter if you ran a business. He's like, some of them are happy that they're just going through me because they're afraid they're going to have to get charged like $1,000 to $2,000. I'm like, really? Oh wait, what's their number? I want to contact them. But yeah,
that's awesome.
But that offhanded comment, he's like, they're actually happy going through me for coaching advice. But yeah, that was just the one thing I told him. I'm like, I said, well, I didn't have authority. I don't have authority to coach him. He's like, why? Because I started teaching martial arts at a very young rank. He's like, technically, you were only like 3 ranks higher than that person that you charged like $500. You didn't feel like you were the fake then. I'm like, I was also just young, dumb, and just like, please, sir, I do this, sir. Right?
Yeah. That was my biggest transition into coaching. It's like, who am I? Who's going to listen to me? What authority do I have? And NLP kind of locked it in for me. So like step 1 from coaching is associate the client to the problem. Mm-hmm. Step 2, disassociate yourself from the problem. Don't jump in with them. Just pull out your bag of popcorn and how's that a problem? How's that a problem? Right. As soon as we get in the problem with them, then we're fixing the problem for them and they need to fix it themselves. Right. At the end of the day, you're just the guide. And that's what's been very empowering for me because I love to learn. And it sounds like you're a naturally curious, inquisitive human being.
Yes.
And the more curious, and I've got a friend of mine, he's like, I don't know how you do it. You have a way of telling me I'm an asshole and I want to give you a hug at the same time. Because I ask stupid, obvious questions. Because when people are in their problem, they're in their shit, right? And I ask really obnoxious questions to people I have good rapport with. And right. They're like, yeah, you're being an idiot right now. Seriously right now, man? But that's just the type of humor I have. But step 1 is associate the client to the problem. Step 2 is disassociate yourself, help disassociate them, reframe the problem, release any negative energy, and then what's the next step?
Oh yeah,
that's coaching in a most simplistic way.
And I honestly that applies to the same thing when I was teaching kids how to punch. It was okay. What is the problem that's holding them from doing it correctly? How do I address it without seeming weird? And then how do we get them to accept it and then move on?
And you were talking about sales earlier. Every conversation is a sales conversation.
It is. It really is. And the head instructor that taught my instructor how to do martial arts, he's the one that owns the whole system, makes stupid money every year. But there was one where he even there was a funny thing with my 2nd degree black belt. I essentially flopped at the end, but he told me because of your sheer grit and willing not to quit, even though your body's completely gone, he's like, that's something that can't be taught. That is just in you. And he's like, that is a 2nd degree black belt. He's like, but I do want you to know your forms though. So kind of I'll pass you, but you got to show me some forms later on kind of thing.
Dude, that's awesome. Awesome.
But that was the one thing afterwards. He again passed it through my instructor to me, said, because I remember when we were first starting the test. He said, "Oh, I remember you." He's like, "Yeah, I made $1,000 off you." He's like, "The black belt just got his black belt, and I knew you're Alan's student. That's my instructor." And he's like, "So I just bet $1,000 cash right there, pretty much what I earned for the day. That you just turning a whatever like green belt is gonna whoop his ass." And I said, "Why would you bet that? I'm just curious. Why did you do it?" He said, "Well, first of all, you were vicious, but he's like, also you were willing to change. He wasn't." And that's now like deeper. I'm like, oh, that's true. It doesn't matter if it's fighting or not. I am willing to adapt to whoever that person is.
Yeah.
And I was like, that was it. He's like, your fighting style is really, really aggressive. You overwhelmed them quickly.
Wow, you had an amazing journey.
Right?
I don't know if you hear the power and the learnings in your journey, just recognizing like your empathy and intuition and being basically put in jail for what, 15 years?
I was 18. Well, no, sorry. It was 8 when it started. And I was 20. I'm 29 now. So like 25-ish. So like roughly like 15, 18 years.
Wow. But having that gift, but having it locked up, having successes, but not the ability to even identify it's a success.
Yeah, that's one thing. As I'm like looking back, I can now like adjust it and NLP it better.
Yeah. Well, even the absurdity I'm hearing out of your voice that I've held a stable job for 3 years, like, and not to be disrespectful, but the absurdity in that statement of what makes you believe you can't hold a job for 3 years? You know what I mean? It's like the conversation we're having does not dictate someone that's not stable or can't have, and the journey, the experiences, the learning lessons. It's just, wow, what a journey. Like, I'm just sitting over here impressed.
Thank you. No, it was just let's say to correct the NLP and the language of that is, like I said, I would get a job and maybe times get hard, I'd just quit.
Yeah. Because
I didn't know. And it was the old, I believe I'm a monster. They're thinking I'm a monster. I'm just going to go kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
so that internal self-talk, that negative self-talk, the time travel, it's powerful.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
And that's where, like now I have a trading mentor. His name's Ken Roberts. That's how I'm going to, when I get into it, I know I'm going to make money kind of thing. And, but that's the one thing I said. He has this thing that says opportunity. It's spelled out opportunity now here, but it's all together. And he says, what's the first thing you say? Well, I already said it, so we all know this now. But when I first read it, I said, opportunity is nowhere. And then that's where my mom's like, but it's also opportunity is now here. And I looked at it and I was like, oh. I said, if you have a closed mind, you're going to see what I see. If you have an open mind, you're going to see that one, which that one's better. So I always say there's always opportunity. Even if it's finding a penny on the floor, there's always opportunities. So, yeah. And that's we're now adopting that mindset, the more clearing everything. It's just, it's the time game. And I know it's just once it takes off, oh boy, it's going to be like a rocket. And I'm just going to be hanging on for dear life as I go to the top.
So I hear you reference, are you doing NLP? Have you taken some NLP trainings at all? Some
sort of.
Okay.
My mother, this wonderful lady in my life, she's always said, oh, that's negative. Stop that, Josh. Stop that. So it was one of those, kind of like a dog. She wouldn't spray me with water, but she'd be like, stop that kind of thing. And that's just, so I've always had okay, if I say something negative, is that a good thing? Think no. And then I would say whatever 5 times to override it. And
Pavlov's dog, yeah. Which is the foundation of neuro-linguistic programming.
Pretty much. And now like if my mind starts running negative, I'll say or because I actually have given up music. It sounds silly. I only listen to it on occasions when it's mostly just like Beethoven. Because when I hear the tapeworms of negative stuff like Metallica, yes. Unforgiven. Oh my gosh, that tapeworm gets in there and it keeps repeating. And I realized, oh, if that keeps repeating, I'm going to manifest that. So when I get the tapeworm, I just add random stuff like I ad lib whatever in because like I forgot what the song was, but essentially I was saying it was like it was the Take Me to Church. Take me to church like a dog at the shrine of your life or whatever.
Yeah.
So say, take me to church. I'm going to make money. This. It's like something positive just to get out of that negative loop. Yeah. Even if it doesn't have to totally make sense.
Music is very powerful. Also, it's a great programming mechanism. I've even noticed like if you go on YouTube, there's a lot of like ADHD music, which is basically just frequencies. It's just, and there was a test I took online a while ago it had like 15 questions that asked like your thinking and studying style. And then it predicted the best music you should listen to while studying or trying to learn. But Beethoven kept coming up for me. It's just more of the non-lyrical, instrumental, tone-based with beat that holds your brain focused. I mean, music is it's frequencies,
It is. It's a type of energy.
It's frequencies. And when we can resonate with a frequency type, and actually I'm surprised I'm not doing it today. You must have great energy. A lot of times I'll put frequency music in my earbuds during conversations because it keeps me focused in. And for some reason, I don't have my frequency waves on right now. I haven't needed it. This has been awesome.
You got Josh. We're good to go.
Yeah. So yeah, there's always tricks, brain hacks, right? And yeah. So what's your money making idea? Like how long you been doing your podcast? What's your next steps?
So I've been doing the podcast officially a year now. And I figure it's like most businesses, I gotta, at least for another 2 years, still do it, just build out my stuff. But obviously if opportunities comes up, if someone wants to sponsor me, go for it. But it's the time game now, how I look at it. But I'm looking at options on futures contracts and coaching. Like I was saying, that more leading with empathy and because of my well-versedness in business. Actually, one of my mentors said it. I said the same thing to you. Like, what authority do I have? He's like, there's an ice cream shop near you, right? I'm like, yeah. He's like, they probably been in business 30 years and they've been running negative the last 29. COVID was the one that sent them over the edge. They could have done it in her 15-ish years, depending. He's like, you could have come in and say, hey, $1,000, I'll collect all my information and I'll tell you exactly what to do. He's like, how much would you pay for that? I'm like, just $1,000. It sounds like a lot of labor, so maybe like 10 at worst. And he's like, if you could fix their problems and say, this is what you're doing, he's like, then charge them. And that's when it clicked. I'm like, oh, I am that like kind of tactless guy. It's like, I was in college. That did not last long either. But one of the wood shop guys, what am I doing? Wood shop guys. He was looking at a piece of paper, frowning. And I'm like, okay, I don't like your frown. What's going on? So he said, something's wrong with the books. I'm like, okay. So I looked it over the paper and I said, every 3 at the end of whatever, it was like every 2 or 3 lines, I said, it's off. So recalculate, take off the 3, remove it, and you should be in balance. And he said, later on, he pulled me aside because I was going to another class and he said, you just saved us 30 grand. I'm like, I just literally just looked at it and said, you messed up here. That's all. That's what I'm good at.
Yeah. What I'm hearing is The Great Short. Did you ever see that movie?
Yes.
Yeah. Where he was like running the numbers and it's like, oh shoot, we could do insurance here. And The Great Short. I'm hearing a lot of mindset. It's funny. My wife showed me a picture last night and I've been working with my daughter, Dylan, who's dyslexic. She's the one that's doing softball. I could tell you some manifestation stories on that girl.
I'm down.
Hit her first home run and we did anchoring sessions and she was on a team and wanted to be on this team. And when am I going to be good enough? I'm like, write it on your board. Literally 3 weeks later, she was guest playing and asked to join that team. And now
that's awesome. She's
going to Tennessee. She's going to Colorado. She's going to Atlanta. Like she's a freshman in high school and already on this. It's a California team, the Firecrackers.
Oh, nice.
And, yeah. So but that's the North Carolina division, but yeah, it's one of those elite, when they show up, everyone's like, oh crap, they're here. And she's like, I always wanted to be, she's always kind of been that kid to strive to. Like I told you, at 10, she won North Carolina State BMX champion for the state.
That's
against
awesome.
boys. And, but I forget where I was going with this. Oh, but my wife showed me a picture last night. It had a picture of 3 girls. And she's like, there are puzzle pictures. And right away, my daughter's like, there's 8 dudes in the background. It's all the same dude. They all have the same look. Like I've taught her how to like quickly visually identify. So she's like, I'll go to school, Dad. I'll just take over your business when you're done. Like she already thinks she can do it. I was like, okay, go get some real life experience though. And then we'll come back. But
yeah. Like once you actually like go out and do the stuff and then realize, okay, I actually do have something, then we can talk.
Yeah. So, but I've almost, at times I'm wondering, I'm like, I'd like to see her get knocked on her butt every now and then because she succeeds so much. And I'm like, I just need you to fail every now and then.
Just not a lot. We don't want to ruin
some humility. You. Yeah. Not enough to like break your spirit, but just enough to like, oh, I do got to put some work in every now and then.
I can't just wave my hands and it's done.
And maybe that's not right either. Maybe it should be that easy. Maybe that's my crap. Probably is.
Yeah, probably. I'd say that at least both of us, we've had to work hard. So it's like I want you to succeed, but you also need to go through my trials.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Kids are fun. Kids are fun. So you want to start your own coaching company? Is that what I'm hearing? Is that
pretty much, yeah.
Cool. And focusing on what? On
the helping leaders. As I was saying, the empathy. Your employees are your greatest asset. So teach them that. And I've gotten very good at marketing. So it's like if they need marketing strategies, just be like, we could do this, and this. And just kind of like all around jack of all trades, but specifically niching down in leadership and helping the entrepreneur help their employees succeed. If they succeed, you succeed, kind of thing.
Yeah. Awesome. So who would be your client?
So I've gotten this question a few times recently, and I've realized it would be more small business owner and small to medium-sized business. I mean, if Coca-Cola calls me, I'm not going to say no, but I'm not aiming that high kind of thing. Right. But it's like, just small to medium business owners where they can pivot and it's not going to completely ruin the business. And I can come in and just show them like, okay, this is what's wrong. My biggest example, I always give, and again, it's one of those, I didn't even think about it. This Southern guy, he works for this logistic company. I actually don't work there, so I can say the name. NFI Logistics. They're in like New Jersey based. Okay. I was the security guy that worked at Allied Universal. And since he knew I was very intuitive, so we'd chat like 3-4 minutes and then he'd go in and do his thing. And finally, at one point, he just pulls up and says, "Hey, Josh, the warehouse is suffering. I know you're really observant. Why is it suffering? Why is it?" Like essentially it was like his baby, how he got where he's making $35K a month. And I said, "Oh, well, because it's a warehouse." I said, "That guy with the prison tattoo with like Hell's Gates on his throat, he pretty much just said to his buddy going in, I wish I got in a car crash. That way I could break my legs and not have to come to work for 6 months." I'm like, so the word morale has more power than what's going on here. Your employees are just done. They're only here for the money. So like they were having accidents left and right, problems here, shipments weren't going on time. And I said, you're a man of success now. He's like, "Yes. Can you afford, or the company afford, an extra $500 a week? Just $500 gift card, and they meet whatever safety quota. It doesn't even have to be production. Just don't get hurt this week. Top 5 get $100 kind of thing." And he's like, "Yeah, I could do that. That's like 2 steak dinners." I'm like, "Well, I don't know where you go for 2 steak dinners for $250, but I want to try this place."
Yeah, next steak dinner is on you for me. Like, let's do it.
And so pretty much then through time, he'd ask me and I say, "Okay, now like up the ante." Cause I said, they got the game. I said, "Up the ante." And essentially within like a month and a half, instead they like, let's say the baseline was like 2,000 packages an hour. They were suddenly pumping 8 to 10,000 an hour and no one's getting hurt. And everyone wanted to come to work. We suddenly got to the point, all the other managers were saying, "You were like the one we laugh at. Now we want to be you. How did you do it?" And he's like, "Oh, it's just the security guard over there." And that's always been my thing. Cause then he even offered to pay me out of his own personal pocket. And I just sort of jokingly said, $10,000. He's like, that's it? Shit. Okay, here you go. It had to be a check.
No kidding.
I was closed-minded, and I said, I don't want to deal with the taxes. Thank you for the offer. And that relationship has proved way more valuable than the $10,000 he gave me. But I had it at one point. He did pay me. I just didn't cash it.
Wow.
So
yeah, man, you, like I said, that this conversation, you've got gifts you're probably aware of, but unaware of. Like, yeah, I love your journey. I love your story. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Thank you for being here and just kind of being like, okay, a similar path to this is what you should do.
Yeah, no, it just, we're called at times to do things, and we often don't always hear it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird. Life. There's no instruction manual. That's for damn sure.
There's not.
I've been married for going on 22 years, and I've got 2 teenage kids, and the roller coasters, the careers,
business too,
the learnings. Oh my gosh, yeah. And the belief in that, it's like I had very similar to you. Like I always saw things that other people couldn't see. When a lot of people interview, I was like, I'm gifted with dyslexia. Like, well, what the hell do you mean by that? It's like, I see things that other people can't see. I've had to be more intuitive and empathetic. And I've had to, when I couldn't read instructions, I had to find ways to achieve without traditional methods of communication. I had to, it's almost like the blind guy that can smell and hear 10 times better than everybody else, right? It's
you can hear like everything, like as if he is seeing, but he's not actually seeing you.
But it's the patterns. It's the intuition and empathy. Seeing the patterns, we make it harder than it is. But the downfall is I can often see it in others, but can't see it in myself.
Yes.
So I had a client call before you, and he had it's so weird. Coaching is so selfish in the sense that 98% of my clients I'm 2 steps ahead of. Mm-hmm. It's like whatever they're going through, I just finished or am still going through. And it's like, we get to go through this shit together. Okay, let's grab our hands. Let's go. But he was sharing with me, he was the guy that grew up in a trailer. And he's like, look, he's like, I've always searched out like mentors. He goes, and no matter how crappy it got, I found somebody that had something energetically that I could see. And I was like, I want that. How do I get that? He was a Golden Glove boxer by the age of 12.
Nice.
Because he had so much anger and pissed off. He went to some guy. He's like, what do I do? He goes, go hit that bag 500 times with the right hand. Okay, now do it with your left hand. It's almost like Karate Kid. It's like wax on, wax off. Because before I know it, I was knocking kids the hell out. It's like, because finally some guy saw something in him and just focused his energy in a space that would give him success. And I think us as humans, we're all connected, and we need to search out that human interaction and connection and support, and be like, I think the thing I just told him too, I was like, have you constantly surrounded yourself by a group of people that when you fall down, they all jump on top of you until you don't get up? Or do you fall down and you got 2 dudes over there, one grabbing you by the arm and one kicking you in the ass going, get the F up, get back up here with us. Mm-hmm. Because if you're with the team that jumps on top of you and tells you not to get up, you're with the wrong team.
Yes, you are.
You're with the wrong group. No. And then I've got other people that have come in. It's like, well, I'm the smartest guy in the room. I'm like, then you're in the wrong damn room.
You are. You need to find one where you're just a notch lower than everyone else.
That's like, because you're not growing, you're stagnant, and but not everybody has that. I love this conversation today because you're on this journey for answers. And another common thing I tell everyone, I said, the destination for all of us is the same. You choose how to get there.
My analogy is I say there's a million ways to the top of the mountain. They're not wrong, but you might not make it to the top either. So,
and there's another one I say, I'll share this with you. There's those that play the game and those that don't. And then there's those that don't even know it exists.
I think that's my dog barking.
Nope, it's mine.
Okay. I'll say my sister's isn't back. So I was like, okay.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So, and it's like, if you look at the world today, the rules are constantly changing.
And
Success
quickly.
for you needs to be defined, and then learn the rules of the game and go play it.
100%. And that's where, like, for me, like my mentor that's been helping me figure out, like, okay, coaching is not, I pay him like $30 a month. It's super cheap insurance. Essentially, we get to call him like this once a week. And then I get unlimited emails, and I actually take advantage of it. He says, like, Josh, I said that more marketing, like unlimited in general. He's like, no one actually emails me. I'm like, well, you should be very clear on what you mean for me.
Careful what you ask for.
But
well, awesome.
No, and that's one thing he's even said, like, you have a talent. He's like, we just need to figure out how to hone it and send it. And funny thing with your boxing guy, my martial arts instructor essentially picked me up when I was like 13. Ironically, like 6 months earlier, I tried to like take my life and hang myself. I realized now I just choked myself out and just passed out. But I was at that point where I was believing the monster. I can't do anything. And he found me, and that's where he said, he didn't even try to sell me. He put his funnel cake down in his soda and said, hey, you, and pretty much grabbed my shoulder and dragged me. You want to go break someone's arm and I'll teach you how to do it correctly? Kind of thing. And then I said, ever since, like, that's the cheapest sell you've ever done. And he's like, no, I was just genuinely worried because he's like, I saw a rage behind your eyes that if it kept going, like something not good is going to happen. So he's like, I'm just going to like put in this bag kind of thing. And I told him, you literally saved me. If you did not pick me up when you did, I'd either be strung out somewhere or have jumped from Brazil to China to whatever, because that is where the money is at, kind of thing. And I said, no, like, you literally saved me. And he's like, all right, well, now you got your black belt. You need to help other people. You need to save other people. I'm like, okay, sir, I'll try my best.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
But yeah, that's the biggest one I tell them. I'm like, because the same with the boxer, I had a true rage that like you could not quench it. I could punch the bag 5-6 hours and I was not tired. That's why the one instructor bet for me, because he's like, you're not going to beat him. He'll figure out something.
Right. Problem solvers, and it's we need a lot of those in the world today. And I think, I truly believe energetically, and you probably feel this too, there's like a conscious awakening going on. I know there's a lot of chaos and negative out there, but I also think there's a large awakening and energetic. We're going to need guides, people, how to navigate as a human race, as we evolve. What's next energetically, right? And how do we have more awareness? Like, you're already seeing auras, and I, my daughter sees things, and it's just, it's going to be interesting over the next couple of years. I really think there is,
It really is.
So we could sit here and go down the political route, but I do think some of that swamp is being drained. A lot of that negativity is like, it's time for
I think because we were force fed it for pretty much a year and a half, we're at the point where it's like, well, you can't scare us anymore. You've used all your tricks, kind of thing.
Yeah. So, but no, I think there's going to be a large portion that don't get it, but there's going to be a large portion that does, but they're going to be standing there going, I don't understand. Like, how do I navigate this now?
I think one of my guests was telling me, I think it was just in 2020 alone, it was like 13,000 or 30,000 new entrepreneurs were minted. And of that, like 800 of them actually made $1 million in 1 year. So I think it's going to be, like you said, there is going to be an age of renaissance where these young bucks who have ideas, or I don't know what a term for a lady that's a go-getter. But yeah, they start their business and they're going to look and be like, okay, but how do I do what he's doing, kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I had an Amazon owner, not even 30. He put 1.2 mil roughly in the bank this year, selling his Amazon store. Mm-hmm. I have my marketing team, and there's no one over the age of 28. And their sales guy has been arrested twice and booked over almost $1 million in business for the company last year.
Nice.
And it's just, sometimes we got to hit rock bottom, and sometimes we learn faster than others, but I'm just so impressed. I'm 50 years old and I had such a judgment on like the millennials and younger and the concerns for my daughters. But now I'm seeing these kids that I'm coaching that are 21 to 28 that, oh my God, like it's almost like the story that you heard the son of the NBA player that either shows up with the best shoes and doesn't do dick, or shows up with all the tools that dad's given him and taking advantage of every opportunity. Now is the best 3-point shot Curry, in the league. You could rest on the laurels or you can take the advantage you have and go do something with it. And I think some of these kids that I've been exposed to embraced technology, saw the millennial generation that like got trophies for just showing up, going, no, I want to show up and get what I deserve. There's this shift. These kids that are under the age of 30 right now, there's an internal conversation that's just different. It kind of resonates back. I don't know what I would say my generation, but there's a work ethic in some of them that I'm dealing with. And it's just very impressive that they're embracing technology and this conscious awakening and this, it's just neat to see.
Yeah.
Neat to see.
I would say I remember in elementary or like 5th grade, that's like right when the politically correct, everyone gets a trophy kind of thing was starting.
Yeah.
And we were doing, I think it was dodgeball. And that was like one of those, I was a big boy. I was like, you couldn't miss me. And I was still really agile. And that's where I won the tournament. But because I won, they didn't give me a trophy and they gave everyone else a trophy. And it was something else we didn't earn one, and where I lost, but I got a trophy essentially. And I essentially, because I won the one thing, they're like, why didn't he get a trophy? But he got a trophy for losing kind of thing. And I literally looked at the lady and just handed the whatever back to her and said, this is shit. This means nothing to me. I don't know. She's like, well, she gave it to me and I just threw it in a trash can. Like everyone that worked with me on the dodgeball team, we all threw it away. And she was like crippled. But of all those people, I bet those who actually threw away their trophy and didn't like cherish it, they're out there. They're getting stuff kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've got female athletes and I've done a lot of the psychological studies of the female and the male athlete. And I watched the guy, he did his PhD thesis on motivating the female and motivating the male. And the male athlete has to believe that he deserves it before he'll embrace and empower the team. So if he's constantly making errors and you're like, good job, way to go. He's like, no, I suck. I don't want positive feedback until I actually do something well. Don't blow smoke up my ass. And female athletes motivating in a team-based environment. And this is 100%, but the studies have showed more than not, women, when they know that their mistake, they won't be excluded. They'll still be part of the team. They're supported through their journey to learn and
train harder.
They will show up harder. Yeah. So boys want to know they're doing, they got to know. They don't want any feedback from their team members unless they did something awesome. Then they want to be celebrated.
Right.
But women need to know that they can make a mistake and not be excluded. Right. So, and it's just this psychology. And like you just said, I got something for nothing. What? It's almost like a punch in the gut.
It really was.
You suck. And I want to coddle you and make you feel better. No, if I lost, I lost. Tell me I lost. It gives me the motivation to go train harder to be better next time.
My instructor, his going thing, and he still says it, but actually recently with COVID, he's kind of calmed down on his anger. And his go-to thing, if we fucked up hard, all right, he looks at us super serious Armenian look, and he's like, suck less, do it again.
Suck less. Cool. Well, I do have a hard stop. I got to jump on a client call in like 2 minutes. Dude, what a great organic conversation.
It's been awesome.
Yeah. Do you have my email and stuff?
Yes.
Yeah, shoot me a note. Let's circle back and have another conversation. I want to hear more about your journey. Like I said, I am impressed with your journey. I loved your story. It's the Cinderella underdog. I love those stories, man. It's
awesome. Thank you, Dave.
Awesome. You're welcome. Thank you for your time, and we'll talk soon.
Talk soon. Bye-bye. Well, congratulations. You made it to the end. You're an awesome person. Not many make it here. So, being the awesome person that you are, can you do me one more awesome favor? can you rate and review this on whatever podcast services you're using? If you do it on Apple and you leave an actual written review, I have a thing on my website. I will take your written review and post it for all to see. Congratulations, you're permanently sealed on my site. Otherwise, I am trying to do YouTube more and live streaming. I will try to put as many of the YouTube links in the description of the show as I can. So give your boy some extra help over on YouTube. Watch my videos. I just mute it and change the channel, change the window or something. But yeah, that's it. Thank you for being awesome, and see you next time.